49ers just got a huge win against the Los Angeles Rams. It's always a get-right game when the 49ers get to play the Rams. We're going to talk about it all next, what the ramifications are of this game. Stay tuned. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. We've got Fred Warner here taking David's spot tonight. Fred, what's happening, my man?
Oh, baby, I'm just like geeked since the CMC trade. I've been amped, got my juice back as a fan, and this game took it to another level. And I think that you're seeing exactly what this offense is capable of with him at every level. And I mean, one of the all-time, to me, classic regular season performances by a 49er player, to be quite honest. I don't know. I don't think that's ever happened where you receiving touchdown, rushing touchdown, passing touchdown. So I'm going to take this bad boy off, but get me a new lid. I'm geeked and I'm ready to talk this post game.
Yeah, I love it, man. CMC is absolutely incredible. Before we get into this, I want to say, do not, under any circumstances, please, and I'll say this a few times throughout the stream, do not give any money to me. No super chats. There's a link pinned to the top of the chat. We're doing the charity thing today. This is the first time trying this. So any money you would give to me, whether that's $1, $5, whatever, do not give it to me. Hit the link in the chat. Give it to the Children's Hospital instead. Let's get things started, David.
All right.
This game was so fun to watch. What a pleasure to watch. And I know that there was a lot of concerns coming into the game. No Debo, no Jennings. The defense is banged up like it has been. And it just didn't seem to matter. In your opinion, and I think I know where you're going with this, but what was the story of the game?
Well, I think the story of the game was clearly Christian McCaffrey. It's not just his performance and the stats, and all the glitzy highlights. It's all that, and then everything that he opens up, all the attention that he requires, that clears up plays to George Kittle, to Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel's not even in the game today. Ray McLeod. It's even Jeff Wilson, like, in situations where they had him on the field at the same time, and just getting these things where all that misdirection helps, even in the short yardage game when they're just trying to get a couple yards. He's the guy that you've designed in a lab for a Kyle Shanahan offense, and he's here. And I have to say, a couple weeks ago, I was always like, hey, I didn't know how much it would require to get Christian McCaffrey. The 2 first-round picks thing, I was like, no, there's no way in hell. What they gave up for him was a steal. I'm not going to. It's an absolute steal. And he looks incredibly healthy. He's in tough plays, getting the extra yards, just like his quickness, the speed is all there, the agility is all there. He looks about as good as he's ever in his career. And if Jimmy can play the way he did in the second half and put that together throughout, this offense is going to be incredibly hard to defend. And Debo wasn't even there today.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Greg says I'm just here to apologize for Jimmy today. Nice, Greg. Nice. I think that is the story, and not just what he did, like you said, statistically, but what he means for opening up the rest of the team. That last touchdown throw to Kittle was possible because they bit tough on McCaffrey. They thought the ball was going to him. They freaked out. Everybody sucked up. George Kittle, an all-pro tight end player, is wide open in the back of the end zone because of a player like C-Mac. That's how good he is. And this was exactly what they had hoped they could do with one Jimmy Garoppolo all season. You have this many weapons all over the field. It takes some of the pressure off of him. You got guys that can go make plays for him. And then what it does is it allows him to get into the groove so that he then can go make a play or two when it's needed. It was just a perfect execution game. I don't want to get too excited because it's the Rams, and for some reason the 49ers, it's just the get right game. But knowing that Debo wasn't there, C-Mac's first game, and he produced the way he did, opening up things for the rest of the offense, it's hard not to get excited about what could come for the rest of the season. Absolutely. C-Mac was the story, what he brings to the table. I had to send a text to Grant. I just said C-Mac with the eyes, much like Greg Pinelli here in the chat, giving me the eyes on the whole Jimmy situation. I absolutely love it. I couldn't be happier with today's result. It's the Rams. And for those who rock with me that saw the show last Wednesday, the Behind Enemy Lines, I picked the 49ers to win. And I had been over the last 2 years 0-4 in picking the Rams 49er games. And so I thought it would be a jinx. Thank God we broke the curse. So let me get to this real quick. Flav, I really appreciate the super chat, and I'm sure you were not here when I said this. However, no more super chats for the rest of the show. There's a link pinned to the top of the chat. This is the charity stream. The stream that I get the most views is usually a post game. So I want to take this time as a community, if we can, donate to the Children's Hospital. All the proceeds go directly there. It's the link pinned to the top of the chat. No more money for me. I am also donating $100 on behalf of Last Second Sports. So whatever you guys can give, $1, 1 cent, anything, please do that. Do not give me the money today. But I will read the comment. Flav says, Jimmy looked incredible live. Hopefully all these fair weathers can hold off on firing Shan for a couple more weeks. Week to get healthy. Let's roll. Yeah, we're going to talk all about what we expect coming out of the bye week, what the bye week means, just everything. But yes, it was an absolutely incredible game. I will say this, though. One thing that was interesting, and it happened a couple times, C-Mac had a little bit of a fumble issue there slightly. He had the one fumble that, I mean, who knows what happens if he fumbles and Ray Ray's just not Johnny on the spot there, which is ironic because Ray Ray's usually the guy that'll fumble and cough one up here or there. But he fumbled there. He had the one earlier in the game that they ended up calling incomplete. I don't think it's anything to worry about. It was just interesting to see that from him because he is so sure-handed and really has been throughout his career. So nothing big there. Thank goodness it didn't cost him. That would have been super unfortunate. He plays out of his mind the way he does, and they end up somehow losing based off of a fumble he has. Could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. But something to kind of keep an eye on there. See what happens with that. Okay, so we talked about the win. We talked about the story of the game. Just how big is this win for the 49ers in your opinion, David?
I told you this last week. I was on with Ryan, a couple other guys earlier this week. I thought this was a must win. I had to have that must win mentality. And there's a couple of reasons why. The 49ers are now 3-0 in division. Okay. The Seahawks look like, I think they picked up a win there against the Giants. I could be wrong. Is that right?
It looked like they were winning. I don't know if they ended up winning, but so yes.
That puts Seattle at 5-3. It puts the Niners at 4-4 going into the bye. But they're the only undefeated team.
They're up 27-13 right now, so it looks like they're going to win. Yeah.
And so and that's against the Giants team that's been a tough out, right? So the Seahawks are clearly playing a lot better than they were week 2. So there's a lot of reasons why this is such a big deal. But being 3-0 in division, huge. Getting back to 500, huge. Also counts obviously as a conference win, huge, right? And with a lot of the parity, even a team like the Atlanta Falcons, right? They're 4-4 right now. I'm not thinking they're going to, but you just never know. People get injured. Yeah. Cooper Kupp just got hurt late in this game. Like teams, you never know who's going to be hanging around for that 7th spot. So right now, it seems very clear to me that the 49ers have that mentality and have the roster to clearly, in my opinion, are the best team in this division. And so it's encouraging to get that win. It would have sucked to be the best team in the division, to go 3-5, and then be on the outside looking in, going into a bye week and kind of getting in your head about it. And so I just think that they came in, they had some early hiccups. You went into the half down, right? And they rebounded, and they kept it together, and the defense rebounded it. And so I think they came in with a must-win mentality. They didn't even brought up CMC's fumble. I mean, to be honest, that first one, depending on the year, that's a fumble, right? He caught that ball, right? It
For
just
sure,
wasn't,
yeah.
it just wasn't the football move by the, but yeah, and both of them recovered by the 49ers. Like, that's huge. And those were big pivotal plays, but the ball did bounce their way. And I think throughout, despite a couple different hiccups, defense rebounded really well. And I do feel like, early on, there was a couple things where I thought Jimmy was holding the ball a little too long, but second half, I felt he was more decisive. I felt like he was, just looking more comfortable and in rhythm. And I think that Christian McCaffrey just makes everybody so much better and feels so much more comfortable that you have that one more outlet. The guy in CMC's touchdown in the end zone, not a bad ball by Jimmy at all, but it really incredible play by McCaffrey. Like, Jimmy's touch was good, but like, he had to fully extend, get a pretty decent vertical, and then the body control to stay in bounds. There are not many running backs. There are no running backs in the league that can do what Christian McCaffrey does as a receiver. So this is just, Kyle Shanahan's dream come true, and we're all watching it happen. And it's just really encouraging to see that go into the bye week, because if it would have imploded for whatever reason, I think it would have been all the talk. And now they got 2 weeks to get ready for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, absolutely. Meliano says Jimmy wanted to give Ramsey the ball twice, but Ramsey didn't want it. I get it. Like, here's the thing. We can do this every single week, one way or the other. We can do this every single week. And we're going to. We're going to talk about Jimmy every week. He's the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. There's no way around it. But we know who he is. Most of us know who he is. A lot of people want to, every time he's really bad, people want to be like, see, I told you this is who he is. And then when he plays really good, it's like, oh, see, I told you, I thought this is who he is. He's somewhere in the middle. He's not, again, quarterback play across the NFL is not very good. Jimmy Garoppolo is a starting level quarterback. Like, we should at least all agree on that point. He's not perfect. He's not a world beater. There's a reason they wanted to replace him. But that being said, they can win a lot of games with him, and they just have to get things right around him. Hopefully CMC can be that shot in the arm they need, and they absolutely can go about business and start to run the table here a little bit. This game, David, was so big. The difference between 3-5 and 4-4 is absolutely incredible. Think about it like this. If they had lost this game, most likely we can almost agree that they would not have gotten a wild card spot. It would have had to have been win the division. The possibility of winning the division at 3-5 when you're 2 games behind Seattle is looking really, really tough. You're going to have to go undefeated the rest of the way in the division to get it done. You're going to have to go, you got 9 games left. You're going to have to go 6-3 worse down the stretch. That's just not easy to do. Now they have a little bit of leeway. They have a lot of swagger. They have a bye week coming up at a perfect time. So this win was massive for this team. Absolutely massive. And it's the same thing that we talked about last week. Going into that Chiefs game, a win would have meant a lot more than a loss. If they had won that game, it would have been just incredible. Everybody would have been riding high. But after they lost, I know it was spectacular fashion. They got blown out. But most people expected them to lose the game. The game they had to win was this game because it's a division game. If it was vice versa and they lost to the Rams and beat the Chiefs, it wouldn't have been as sweet. So this was certainly something that we needed to see. Gammon says, when the 49ers were down ATD in the first quarter, not going to lie, I couldn't wait to blame the loss on Jesse. Yeah. Listen, it would have been my fault. And I tweeted it out there so everybody could pile on. But I will say this, at halftime, I did tweet, the 49ers under Shanahan are 7-31 when trailing at half. ... They will be 8-31 after today. And that came true. So I'm glad the curse is broken, Gammon. Appreciate that. And again, thank you for the super chat. Austin, same thing with the super chat. Please, no more super chats. donate any money you would give me to the link pinned to the top of the chat. This is a charity stream. This is something that I'm trying for the first time. I want to, as a community, give as much back as we can. So stop giving me money. Give it to the charity pinned to the top of the chat. Austin says, this is the team we wanted to see. 100% this is the team we wanted to see. Absolutely, this is the team that we wanted to see. And the best thing is, it doesn't even have Deebo Samuel. The 49ers went into LA, beat the Rams without Deebo, and Deebo has been the main catalyst as to why they had won those games in the past.
And that's the thing. Nobody's going to dismiss Deebo. I will say this: like, I think the Christian McCaffrey, it's impressive. That I think the 49ers fans love Deebo Samuel. They should.
Of course.
Deebo is a beast. He's one of one in what he does after the catch. I think it's safe to say, though, that Christian McCaffrey actually brings more as a weapon in this offense. And that's crazy, right? And so, I was just texting my dad, back and forth, like, oh, he always called him Samuels with the extra S at the end. And he was saying, hey, what happened? He didn't realize he had a hamstring. I said, look, this offense, he's like, when Deebo comes back, I mean, we talked about this last week. How do you defend this offense? It makes, honestly, it keeps the defense also. How are you going to, you can only really rush 4 in that capacity. You can't take an extra defender off the field to be blitz happy or do these. Like, you have to respect. And by the way, Brandon Ayuk just quietly had an incredible game today. I think he was,
yeah.
six catches on 6 targets. And I didn't even look. I'm now looking at the box score, but I mean, a couple of those things. He's that guy that, as a receiver, that I think that we've all loved Deebo Samuel as that bruiser, as that yak guy, as the accelerator, and the guy who steals your soul. But Brandon Ayuk really, to me, is developing into the best all-around receiver on this team. And now paired with the receiving threat that McCaffrey is, but his ability to also run between the tackles. I don't know. Like, I'm not a homer. That this team, if Jimmy is playing disciplined ball and with confidence, and if they're playing relatively mistake-free, there aren't going to be very many teams that can defend this. And they don't have to have the big play. They don't have to have the halfback pass. They can do it in other ways. But today, they did it through the air. And that's what's really impressive to me.
Oh, 100%. You might be in the wrong chat, MK. I don't know anywhere where I said that the CMC trade wasn't a miraculous trade. I loved it the whole way through.
Me too.
And I never said fire Kyle. So might be in the wrong chat, but go Niners, I guess, or Raiders, or whoever it is that you're talking about. Okay, so DeMeco Ryans, I think this is something that is going to be missed in this game, potentially. I think throughout the week, maybe it'll start to get talked about, but not so much tonight, because this was a good offensive performance, finally, that we had been waiting for from the San Francisco 49ers. They went out there and they did their thing. A huge must-win situation against a division rival. But DeMeco Ryans quietly started out ugly. The Rams had those long drives. They scored their 14 points, but they didn't score any points in the second half. They were held without scores. And DeMeco Ryans started to change things up a little bit. He started dialing up those blitzes, started mixing in the stunts with the blitzes, sending more than what they could block, and it worked fantastically. I think DeMeco, who had been getting crushed for the last 2 weeks, which I get the Kansas City game to a certain extent, but the Falcons game, even then, without all the players that they were missing, only gave up 21 points on defense. 7 of that came from the offense. I think he's been getting too much hate over the last 2 weeks. Yes, last week was really, really bad, but DeMeco Ryans has been great at adjustments in the past. Even last year, I think it was week 2 against the Eagles, his second week being a play caller, made great adjustments defensively. He does this. I think today was a great example of that. I think his stock is back up where it should be, and I think he got his swag back. What do you think?
Yeah, I think D'Amico Ryans is just as good of as a defensive coordinator as they're in the league And every team has had a clunker. Every great defense has had a clunker. And by the way, this team is still injured. There's still today. Dre Greenlaw, who's having a hell of a year. Aziz Al-Shire still out. Eric Armstead still out. Javon Kinlaw on paper still out. Emmanuel Mosley. There's 5 guys. That's 5 starters. 5 out of 11, that's almost half your starters, right? And last week, your guys were still coming back. I thought Mooney Ward actually had a hell of a game today. And I actually thought the DPI in the end zone was a completely bogus call. And I don't usually come after the refs too much. I thought the secondary actually afforded themselves really well. Sometimes players make plays. Last week is a clunker. But like you said, the 22,000 Ravens had a clunker where they gave up a bunch of yards.
They gave up 36 points in a game in 2000.
Well, and they gave up a lot of yards too. The 1994 49ers gave up 40 to the Eagles and got beat 40-8 at home, right? Yep. So like this idea that you're going to have that. So what did we talk about last week? How are they going to rebound? If they put 2 consecutive clunkers, and at the beginning, I think a lot of people were getting a little bit like, oh, this. Have patience. 223 total yards given up to the Rams today. The only spot, and this is what's great, they only gave up 223 yards, and the Rams converted on 8 out of 13 third downs, which is pretty decent third down conversion rate.
Mm-hmm.
But what that really speaks to is that they were in some third and shorts. They got it, but they bent, but they did not break more often than not. And in fact, they had a hell of a stand down there the first quarter when Stafford came in and put his body on the line to get that touchdown and almost stopped. I mean, that's the heart of that defense. And I have full faith in D'Amico Ryans. I have full faith in this defense. I felt like they ended up getting pressure, like you said, when it mattered. And they put up a goose egg in the second half, right? And this, he's found a way to, without starters being out, with other guys that I think other DCs in the league would not have as much success with. His hype, it should still be up for D'Amico Ryans as an incredible candidate. I don't care who you are. Players love D'Amico Ryans. He's a natural leader. He's a guy that's played in the league, but like doesn't have that aura about him that like he thinks because he's a player in the league that this is something that's going to not make. He's special, and I think that I love the theme about him getting his swag back. I don't even know if he really lost it. My thing is like you went up against Patrick Mahomes and you shit the bed. It's like it happens, and you have those games. How do you rebound? They did it today, and Kyle Shanahan did as well. And I just think that this team's going to be very exciting going forward.
It's funny because Jared says that game changes if Higbee doesn't drop the wide open pass. I think there's a few things there that we could point to. But did you get the feeling that this was me? And I love being on this side of things versus the other side. I really felt like watching the Rams today was watching from almost like a third person point of view, watching the 49ers the last couple of weeks. The implosions, the penalties, the ill in time drops, just everything. It was what the 49ers had been for a couple weeks, and it was great to watch another team implode on themselves instead of it being the 49ers this week. I loved, and I think the big thing is this: that was the Rams coming out of a bye week. To me, It wasn't surprising they started up quickly, those quick 14 points or whatever, because they came out of a bye week. They had 2 weeks preparation. They were getting completely different. They were getting players back. The 49ers are losing players. The 49ers are getting ready to go into a bye. The Rams are coming out of a bye. The fact that the 49ers were able to win that game in that situation without Deebo Samuel and some of the other very good players that are on this team, with the Rams coming off of a bye, and this is what I said going into it, I picked the 49ers to win. However, I said that this would probably be one of the tougher games they have against the Rams in the regular season because of all the things that I just talked about. So the fact that they blew them out the way they did, I know it got ugly later, but they were in control in the second half, full control. And that to me was extremely impressive as well.
And this is the thing though, too. I tweeted live too, that would have been a touchdown. I don't know if it really would have been, but it could have been the Higbee play. We also other teams have good coaches. Like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, come from the same. Like that was a great play design. And by the way, it actually wasn't perfect placement by Matt Stafford either. Like it was a drop for sure, but like a wide open guy, yeah, you want to put it up here, like it was just a little. It looked like it surprised me, but that's life, right? We could go and talk about that all different ways. I mean, the bottom line is, they, like you said, they bent, they didn't break, and I'll tell you this: you gave up 4 yards of play, and that's why I say you go to 8 out of 13 on third down, but you're only giving up 4 yards of play. That's all they were trying to do is dink and dunk, dink and dunk. They can't run the ball, and they can't run the ball at all. They definitely can't run the ball against the 49ers, and so they just, and that limits you. And when the pressure started coming, that mitigated even more. So, yeah, I tell you what, the 49ers are going to go into a game against the Chargers after the bye week that's depleted with injuries. Whose defense is missing a lot of key pieces in J.C. Jackson, Joey Bosa. Their receiving stable is down. Their offensive line is riddled with injuries. This is gonna be another fun. We're gonna have another fun offensive. I honestly think the Niners are gonna come up with some more fireworks in 2 weeks, and I think you're gonna look at it is that Christian McCaffrey really is gonna start getting MVP level talk. Not just offensive player of the year talk. Like if he keeps putting games together like this, he's special in the Shanahan offense. And that's why I'm sorry. I have much respect for everybody's opinion. I think it's fundamentally ridiculous to nitpick this trade. Everybody can get hurt, right? You see the special player that Christian McCaffrey is. Like,
yeah.
It's and this isn't even to me, like this isn't the ceiling at all. So
because they still didn't have Debo. We still haven't even seen Debo on the field with him. I mean, we saw him last week, but that really wasn't even.
No, right.
I don't count that game really as far as them playing together.
I agree. So yeah, D'Amico's got his swag back.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree with this. I didn't watch the total last like couple minutes of the game because we were getting ready for the show here, but says I'm not all for using CMC until he breaks. We have other people to play in garbage time. This is Shanahan's thing. He does this. Nobody's going to say anything now. I'm glad that you're staying consistent and you're pulling it up even without an injury happening. But yes, these are things that are a little frustrating when it comes to Shanahan. He does these things 100%. So, sometimes they get out unscathed and sometimes you have a freak injury at the end of a game. Let's just hope that those things do not happen going forward.
I agree.
So, listen, MK, I love the passion, but my man, like you can't police how people fan. I'm sorry, you can't do that. People are emotional, and that's part of being a human being. When you have a rough loss like you had last week, 2 straight losses, losing to a team you shouldn't have, then you get blown out at home. I mean, people have every right to call it how they see it in the moment. It doesn't mean that now this is where I would draw the line. If you're unwilling to go with what's going on just to try to prove a point, you have to be willing to change with all new information given. So if new information given, like today's game, is given, and then people are like, well, so-and-so's still not good, or so-and-so would, you just be consistent. Call it how you see it. There's nothing wrong with that. You just can't police how people fan. I mean, there is no rule to fandom other than rooting for the team on the field. That's it. That's your job as a fan. Outside of that, how people want to talk about the team, the frustration. I mean, you got to understand these people spend money, and I know that people will say, well, you're not a real fan. Anytime I criticize the 49ers, I'm like, bro, I got like $3,000 worth of signed stuff behind me. You think I'm going to spend that kind of money on a team I don't root for? Imagine that. Bro, but listen, I'm going to be critical when the team's not doing good. Like people get to do that when they spend not only their actual money, but their mind and their mental equity rooting for a team. They get to, that's just the way that this works.
That's the funny thing to me is that, like, obviously we could all say, Jesse and I, we're both parents, right? Husbands too, like we've got families that that we love and that we do a lot of other things with. It's not the only thing in our lives, but yeah, like sports fandom in and of itself is like in so many ways childlike, but that's exactly why I love it so much. It's something that I've been doing since I was a kid, and it's my 49ers fandom goes back to when I was like 5 years old. So it's one of the few things in my life that I've actually carried on since then. But yeah, I'm with you, and I'm a season ticket holder. I live tweet games, and you just kind of call it how you see it. Like I've been incredibly critical of Jimmy Garoppolo over his career. I know he played a hell of a second half today. Like I've been waiting for that, right? And that doesn't mean that he played a perfect game. It doesn't have to be though, right? Like we say the same thing. I say, hey, why aren't we talking about Jeff? Everybody was going to burn Twitter down because Jeff Wilson fumbles the ball. Well, right. Christian McCaffrey fumbled the ball twice. Well, yeah, he's a hell of a player, right? It's like you just try to be fair. And if people get in their feelings about lots of different things, the bottom line is like, yeah, if the 49ers are going to be 3-5 today, like they were last year, the 49ers fans, we expect to win, right? We expect
I'll say this, David. I had the pleasure of going to watch the Bucks and Ravens game live. Okay. I live in Tampa. It was an opportunity to go see Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson play. My youngest is a Ravens fan. He's a Lamar Jackson stan. And so we went and saw that game. Loved being there. Can I tell you the negativity coming from that fan base when that team started losing? The things they were the way they were talking about Tom Brady is how we talk about Jimmy Garoppolo when we're mad. It was incredible. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you guys just got a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and you have the greatest player of all time throwing the football for you, and you hate him. But that's, again, they paid to be there. That's their emotion. That's their ups and downs. I'm sure push come to shove, they don't hate Tom Brady. They owe a lot winning a Super Bowl that Tom Brady came there, but in the moment they're pissed. Like they can do that. So it's not just the 49ers. This is just fans. This is how fandom works. Well, I don't know what else to say.
I mean, watch tonight's game. Watch tonight's game between the Packers and the Bills. I mean, I'm surrounded by Packers and Vikings fans, and Packers fans there's more Aaron Rodgers jerseys in Wisconsin than driver's licenses. And like the idea, like you could go, I mean, they are ready to tar and feather him right now. And so, and he's been your whole identity for almost 2 decades. Like, it's like, but yeah, it's fandom, right?
Absolutely. Dark Halo says the Rams suck. Can we look good against good teams? That's fair. That's good fair. Point. They still, to be fair, I agree. They haven't necessarily beaten a good team yet. I understand that. I think they can, because of Christian McCaffrey being on this team, health coming out of the bye week, hopeful health coming out of the bye week. There's a lot of good things going their way. Plus, to be fair, Dark Halo, I think a lot of teams are just bad in the NFL this year. There's really not the great teams. There's a good team or two, but I don't think there's any team that I look at and say, oh my gosh, they're unbeatable, outside of maybe Buffalo. Buffalo, once it gets to the playoffs, I said this before a snap was taken this year. That is the one team I want no part of. If somehow the 49ers can be lucky enough to earn their spot in a Super Bowl, as long as Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are not on the other side, I'll feel good about it. But if it is them on the other side, I want no part of that matchup. That is the one. But I don't think any team is unbeatable in this league. I don't think any team is great in this league outside of maybe that one team. But the good news is they struggle against the Chiefs, especially in playoff time. So maybe the Chiefs can knock them off. We'll see how that goes. But good reminder real quick. Appreciate the super chat. I want to remind everybody, please, no more super chats the rest of the time. The link pinned to the top of the chat. This is a donation stream, so any money you would normally give to me, please donate to St. Jude's. Last Second Sports is donating $100 on our behalf, and we want to be able to give back as a community, and that's the best way that we could think of doing it. So
here's a question that's a little off. I was throwing out there. I'm thinking, I'm reading all this stuff about, because I love Brandon Ayuk and I love what Debo brings, but Christian McCaffrey, he's a running back. Christian McCaffrey is not just a running back. Okay.
No.
Christian McCaffrey is criminally underpaid for what he's going to be bringing to this offense. And you got to believe there's no way in hell that John Lynch and Prague are going to sit there. They're going to make him work under that contract. I can guarantee you that. I guarantee you he's going to say, hey, I'm grateful to be here. And 23 jersey going to be the number one selling jersey in the NFL in the next couple of weeks. I put money on that right now. Take it to Vegas. It's going to be. Okay. What do you do with all this? I mean, that's a good problem to have, right? But Ayuk, the last 3 weeks, I guess Akash just last 3 games, 8 catches, 83 yards, 2 TDs, 7 catches, 82 yards, 6 catches, 81 yards, and a TD. Starting to turn into WR1. Yeah, that's what he was drafted for, right? And so now all of a sudden you have this luxury of having Debo back. But boy, oh boy, like, do you start having that conversation as this goes on? Like, what happens if Ayuk keeps outpacing Debo and doing it alongside McCaffrey? I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you're not going to be able to keep everybody. And when that time comes, luckily they're not there yet. We don't have to worry about that this offseason, most likely. They'll probably get at least next year with all 3 of them. However, at some point you're going to have to let one of them go. I think if Ayuk continues being this type of player and CMC is still here at half the cost of Debo, Debo's probably the one that you have to look to move eventually. Yeah, I think it's worth at least keeping there because eventually, like I said, eventually you just can't pay everybody. You can't do it. So
people are going to go on the TL.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, Jesse and David are saying trade Debo Samuel now, but
it's not. Let's be clear.
The previous comment that was legit, like this idea that the 49ers have owned the Rams for years, right? Like this is like that's their bread and butter is beating the Rams. Same old sorry ass Rams. Like and I'm not even joking. Like it's gotten to that point. It's outside of the NFC Championship. What is this now? I think is it 9 out of 10? Is that where we're at?
It was 7. Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Like this is insane in regular season. Like that doesn't happen in division very often. I mean, Kyle has Sean's, and it's just so. I think it's absolutely legit that you want to see after last week. The only thing is this, as Jesse mentioned, CMC was window dressing last week. He had been there for literally less than 48 hours. Okay, look how he's already bell cow offensive weapon MVP of the league. Been here for a week. Okay, 9 days, and he's already got the playbook. That's how smart Christian McCaffrey is, right? This is. So imagine how good this is going to be when this is like 2-3 weeks in. Okay, Kyle Shanahan's going to get in his bag, and I think that there's legitimate criticism sometimes levied about Kyle being more conservative. I think the big thing is Kyle's very slow to trust, and for good reason for a lot of different players. But Christian McCaffrey is not a guy that he's going to struggle to trust. So like this is the kind of thing where he just, and I think that's where he's that missing puzzle piece. He's that keystone in the bridge that's like just makes everything work. And it's crazy that it's interesting. Here's a little interesting thing. Carolina Panthers, they wanted to get the best deal, right? But they still got to play in the NFC, and maybe they're thinking long view. And this is why I'm not. But instead of trading him to the Rams, the kicker was just that extra 4th round pick. And I just can't. I think to myself, like, you traded him to Kyle Shanahan, and not to an aging roster in the Rams that's starting to kind of fall. You gave Christian McCaffrey to Kyle Shanahan just for an extra 4th round pick. It does make, in the same conference and a team that's trying to hold on to like Brian Burns, JC Horn, and like, so it seems like they want to kind of try to maybe win now in the future. It's just weird to me. I'm just like, as a 49ers fan, I'm like, thank you. But
yeah, I agree. But it goes back to, and I've said this before, I don't care if it's in division. I don't care if it's in conference. If it makes sense for your team and you're getting the most out of it and you're okay with the trade, you have to. And it goes back to that quote that I always say, winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners. You cannot make a trade. Can't not make a trade because you're worried it makes this team better. If it makes you better, you just have to do it. And
100%.
I think the Panthers also. I think they know where they stand. They're not quite there yet.
Right. And
although,
I think that's
quarterback, they get a quarterback there. That's a very, very good team. Very good team.
You just know though, like you said, winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. I get that, but not for the Carolina Panthers so much as like you know that every other team in the NFC was legitimately frustrated with that trade. You know that when they saw that go through, that life just got harder for them. And so that I think that's what I'm getting at. So more is like, and I honestly, I have been more excited after this trade, not because I've actually never Christian McCaffrey's never been one of my like. I mean, I always respect him as a player, but it's not like I follow him religiously. But it's what he brings to this offense. And today, I mean, to be here in 9 days and to do the Triple Crown, it's just the sky is the limit.
Yeah, 100%. Shades by Chardall says Rams lost and Cup has a high ankle sprain. Bye Lambs.
Oh
yeah, and I'm curious to see. Again, I do the behind enemy lines every week. I was talking with the Rams creator, and I said, if the Rams don't make the playoffs this year, what are the chances of Donald retiring? And he said, "Oh, I don't think it'll happen. I think he'll still stay one more year." I don't know about that. He just got his ring. You don't make the playoffs. It's not like things are looking better for you next year. You don't have a ton of money to go spend. I mean, I don't know, man. I think there's a possibility that Aaron Donald retires after this year and they don't make the playoffs, and I'm totally fine with that.
Well,
I'm here for it. So
I'll tell you why though. That's true. Like, look, this team, again, I'm actually geeked for this win, and I'm not even making like it's a legit win. I was talking about the Eagles. I was coming around like, oh, they haven't played anybody. And I was like, yeah, but so what? Like, and haven't they beat the Vikings? The Vikings are winning the 6-1. The Cowboys have one of the best defenses in the league. The Eagles are very balanced. It's how you play, right? It's what you do against opponents. Like you win games, like they're undefeated and they're not lucky. They're balanced. So the 49ers winning this game today was a legit win. And the Rams aren't a very good team. Matt Stafford had some really, crazy sidearm throws today and things like that. You've got your Cooper Kupps, but the run game is non-existent. Allen Robinson is a fine wide receiver too, as a veteran. But the defense for the Rams right now has actually been playing relatively well, but in a lot of ways, their yards given up is a little bit mitigated by, I think, just Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald. Outside of that, the pass rush just really isn't there. Leonard Floyd, I think it was his first couples, of the season today. And one of them was on the face mask penalty. I don't know. Their offensive line took a hit. And if Cooper Kupp is out, we've been talking about this. I don't think the Rams are a playoff team anyway. I thought the Niners the division winner. But like, I think the Rams, it's going to be one of those classic, not necessarily first to worst, but they could be looking at a sub 500 record. They really could. And they probably are.
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate this, Tyrone. More importantly, if you are here, it's a charity stream. Link is pinned to the top of the chat. Any money you would normally give me, please throw it to the charity. I'm trying to see how this works. I would love as a community to give as much back as possible. Like I said, Last Second Sports donated $100. So we're just trying to give back any way possible, use the platform for good. And I figured this is a great way to do it. So please, instead of giving me any money, give it to the charity, pin to the top of the chat. Okay. So it sounds like we're on the same page here as far as this team, but there are a lot of things. They still have not beaten a good team. We've talked about that. Going forward, what is your confidence meter for the San Francisco 49ers?
You know me. I mean, before the season, like we said, we call it how we see it. I'm a pretty straight shooter, and I'll own when I'm wrong. I think that I am 5-3 now in my picks for the year. I thought that actually on paper with all the games, I thought the Niners are good enough to be 7-1 at this point. And I don't think I'm necessarily wrong. I really don't. I thought and that included the Chiefs game. But that put me back a little bit. right? And I think that my confidence meter is that this defense is very, very, very good. You know, they're really one of the top 3 defenses in the league. And with that, offensive line and pass protection has been pretty good, but Glenn Shee's had a couple of clunkers. But by and large, pass protection's actually been incredible. It really has. They're a top 5 pass pro, and we've been waiting for that. We have been waiting for that in the Shanahan regime, and they have it. The weapons are there. I think Debo probably comes back. I don't know. The soft tissue hamstring stuff can be difficult, and he's had them before. But with the bye week, have this week off, we'll see where he's at. I'm just going to say it. Even without Debo, my confidence meter's, pretty high as long as the defense doesn't have any brain farts. Doesn't and cannot and continue maybe to not give up the big play or to get off the field in 3rd down. And I guess I'll say this: the question that you ask is confidence. That is the one thing. Giving up 8 out of 13 3rd downs when last week was absolutely horrendous on 3rd down. That's one thing that has me a little worried, And so if they can tidy that up and get and maybe stay out of those 3rd and short situations, but like I said, if you're only giving up 4 yards of play, I don't know if all those 3rd downs really matter that much. So I look, they're going to come on the Chargers. They're going to go to Mexico City to face the Cardinals. I'm probably going to get the games out of order after that. I think then it's the Dolphins, Saints, Bucks in one of those. I don't know if it's that exact order. I think it's in that order. At home, and then you close out against Seattle on the road, Commies on Christmas Eve, Raiders in Vegas on New Year's Day, and then Arizona at home. Teams can all play ball, but I think the Niners are going to be. You can quote me on this. I think the Niners are going to be favored to win every one of those games. I really do. Yeah. I mean, you're looking at, so let's just walk through this a little bit. And I'm not saying they're all wins by any stretch.
No, definitely. They're not going to go undefeated. Like the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. But
look at Vegas lines.
They're favorites. Yeah.
Chargers at home, they're going to be favored. Arizona on the road, they're going to be favored. In Mexico City, it's a neutral site. They're going to be favored at home against the Bucs, Saints, and Dolphins. I can guarantee it. On the road in Seattle, maybe that's a pick 'em. I don't know, depending on how Seattle's playing. But then Commies, Raiders, and the Raiders look like the worst team in the NFL. Awful. And then the Cardinals at home. I honestly will that'd be a nice little bet. Will the 49ers be favored, like money line favorites, the rest of the way? That is very rare. And I think that should tell you about what the confidence is in this team. This team can play, and they can make a run in the playoffs. It's all going to be contingent on defensive health, okay, especially in the secondary. And I know the pass rush map, but that secondary's got to stay healthy. They stay healthy, and Jimmy plays within structure and can do what he did today, and that offensive line continues to pass protect. There's not that many teams that can really play with him. But we saw what happened in KC. So, I'm very confident. I really am.
Yeah, Paul says favored over Miami. I think so only because it's a home game. If it was on the road, they wouldn't be favored. So,
but Miami's defense is, they're in a shootout. Everybody knew it was going to be a shootout today in Detroit, and that should tell you something. And I like Mike McDaniel's, one of my favorite coaches in the league. I will stand for him. I think he might very well be the smartest, most cerebral coach in all of football. And he is Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man. Like any assistants ever worked for Kyle, he was his guy. Like that was the guy. And Miami made a prudent call on hiring him. So you're right. I agree with that. I think if it was in Miami, maybe a little bit different. But like I said, it all comes down to health. And I think right now, from what I've seen, D'Amico's actually been able to do a damn good job, despite having attrition on the starting lineup. And as the guys get healthy after the bye, they get a win in against Los Angeles next week or 2 weeks from now, and they're sitting at 5-4. Then you go on the road against Arizona. I think that's the big one. If you can go 6-4 after that, after a road win in an international game, I think you're looking at 3 home games in a row. That is a phenomenal place to be.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think I want to answer this, but James says don't overhype a decent performance. I don't know if you're talking about like Jimmy. I never mind. I think you're talking about Jimmy. I'll leave it alone. You guys have your argument. Eric says, Jesse, after this performance, should the Niners keep Jimmy or make one more all-in trade by the deadline. I assume that you're saying keep Jimmy or trade for another quarterback. I think it just depends on. I think it depends on what's out there. If you can go get a better quarterback and not cost your future quarterback, then sure, do that. But you can't. You don't go get that player now and cost your future. I don't believe, but who knows what we're going to say.
I think this is a good comment, though. Is
Yeah,
that
I do too.
not over? And look, I am not going to be the person that comes down on Jimmy on this. I will say this though: it's a game that you can. You don't put too much stock in that. Kyle Shanahan is not a week to week guy, but he's looking at what they can do, and they. How do I say this? I think that it's going to be in a situation where you can't think that Jimmy's going to have a game like this every game.
No, of course.
And to be fair, Jimmy played well today. Jimmy played well, right? Like I think everybody would say that it was Christian McCaffrey was the guy, right? No shade at Jimmy whatsoever. But like you're right, you don't look at one game against a team that you always play well against and say, well, like everything is okay, from the quarterback position, no doubt about it. And so Matt Maiocco just tweeted out this week, right? He hinted at this, that the 49ers are open to anything and everything that makes their team better. They've made trades before the trade deadline before. I don't know what that looks like, but like you said, there's no way you make a trade that compromises the future of your team in the way that, and so do I think the 49ers will be players? Yeah. Could Jeff Wilson have worked himself? He didn't get that many snaps today. Could Matt Maiocco was talking about that. Could he be moved? Sure. Could other people be moved? Yeah. I don't know. But we'll see.
Yeah. And I think John Lynch has been very clear in the past. And in fact, Kyle Shanahan just recently talked about how you kick the tires on getting better at every position. He said that a million times over. If you ever listen to him talk, if you listen to John Lynch talk, anytime a player becomes available, you always see if there's a way that you can do that and be a part of that. But the likelihood of it happening is small. But I will say this. The guys that you're probably looking at are older quarterbacks and Brady and Rodgers, and both of them are going to be on teams, most likely, assuming the Bills win tonight, are going to be on teams that are 3-5. Yeah. So are they likely to be willing to at least listen offer? Sure. You got to kick the tires on it. But like I said, if me getting Tom Brady means it costs me Trey Lance, I'm not doing it. But if it costs me Jimmy Garoppolo and I don't know, a couple compensatory third-round picks, sure, I'll do. Yes, in a heartbeat, I'll do that. But that's, like I said, the likelihood is slim to none. But I would, you have to listen to those conversations if they're being had. 100%.
Well, and this is the thing. Keep in mind.
And let me say this just real quick, because I know that there are going to be people that are going to say, "Oh, Tom Brady shot. Look at that." No, I live in Tampa. I've seen every throw from Tom Brady this year. I was at the game on Thursday. He can make every single throw still. And I will also tell you that I tweeted out before the season started that if he's going through a divorce, if this is true, that I don't think the Bucs are a threat because Tom Brady's mind will be somewhere else. I think both can be true. Does he still have the skill set? Yes. Is his mind somewhere else and maybe occupying him? Absolutely. But now that situation is settled, you give him a chance to come home and be with family, and you have to listen to it. You have to. If that is presented, you would have to listen to that.
They have in the past as well. And here's what I'm going to remind people about. What did they do? Now, listen, this is kind of a fun little conversation, right? Because, hey, the 49ers are 4-4. And you did have a big win today. But you came off last week, and boy, was that embarrassing, right? So we're all kind of like, well, yeah, you're going to the bye week, right? So it's interesting. And you're going into the bye week, and the trade deadline is on Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday?
Tuesday, I think, yeah.
Tuesday, the 1st. So it adds this drama to it. And what the 49ers have done since they drafted Trey Lance was they said, like Grant Cohn coined the term pump and dump. Oh, this. The 49ers have not always been a team that's a Bill Belichick sell high style. I'm just, like, I think I think a lot of fans would knee jerk if something happened and they're like, oh my God, after today's game, they scored 31 points. And it's like, what would you, I think you're right, Jesse. I think that if John Lynch had something like that and you had a Hall of Fame quarterback come across your table, the conversation would be had. Right. And they'd have to consider what the resources would be, because if they really think, like you said, my confidence meter, right? If they think this is a team that is a bona fide, not just like bona fide Super Bowl roster, and they just made a trade for CMC, I would not put,
Well, and also this, again, to anybody saying no to Brady, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying that I think this is likely, him or Rodgers is likely, but is the possibility there for two teams that are 3-5 that Rodgers says, hey, I'm going to retire at the end of the year, potentially, that's the rumor that came out, and Brady is a free agent at the end of the year, even if he doesn't retire, like he's not going to be back with the Buccaneers in all likelihood. So would those teams possibly at 3-5 start to listen? I think that's feasible. I'm not saying that they get traded. I'm not saying that the 49ers would be, if they did get traded, that the 49ers would be that team. But look at when Tom Brady's had his most success in his career. It's when he's had an elite tight end. Check. 49ers have that.
Yep.
And a scat back that's not near the skill level of one Christian. Could you imagine having somebody like Christian McCaffrey for him to be his safety blanket when he's had guys like Burkhead and gone apeshit with those guys? I mean, yes, of course, if you can get a Tom Brady and it doesn't cost you Trey Lance, you absolutely do that. That is a no-brainer. That's not even a question. Even a question. Yes, you do that.
And I think that's now you've got me intrigued, right? Because like this is that idea of, you look around this team, and you're going into a team that actually is pass protecting well. And people are going to say, well, you're crazy. Jimmy played an efficient game today. Blah, blah, blah. Like, that's awesome. I think they can actually win and I've said this before. Like, I didn't think that Jimmy could win the Super Bowl. I don't think he could win a Super Bowl with Jimmy. However, I said, but with the pieces that he has around him now and with an elite defense, yeah, you could win a Super Bowl with Jimmy in that regard. You could. The thing is this, there's 31 other teams in the NFL, and you're looking at the teams that you got to beat. And we're going to watch two of those teams tonight. Well, the Packers aren't really one of those teams I consider, but the Buffalo Bills, you're looking at the other conference. You just got donkey stomped, right, by the other team. So they saw that. They know how that turned out. I'm just saying, if this team the 49ers have not won a Super Bowl since 1994 season. And if they feel like they have pieces in front of them, and there's I think the silver lining is this, or the loophole is this. Like you said, if you've got sub 500 teams and they're aging and they might be forcing retirement, or they're going to say X, Y, and Z, and they have no trade clauses and things like that, this trade deadline may be the only time that they're ever going to be able to get value for those players. It's a really weird storm. I'm not saying it's a perfect storm, but it's an interesting storm. And that, if these teams were 6-2 or 7-1 and winning their division, you're not even having the conversation. But if you're looking at a team that's struggling, and like Aaron Rodgers right now, not getting along, right, with having arguments with the coaches, Tom Brady breaking iPads, excuse me, Microsoft Surface, my bad. I'm just saying. So it's going to be an interesting 48 hours. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to be watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Twisted Clown, I think that's a fluid situation. If they were to get a Tom Brady, like I said, I wouldn't trade Trey. And here's the reason. Okay. Let me be clear. If it was a guaranteed Super Bowl by getting a Tom Brady, and I had to trade Trey Lance to do that, 100%. Here you go. But it is not a guarantee. It is, you've upped your chances 100%, but it is not a guarantee. And so my fear is, what if you make that trade? Tom Brady retires at the end of the year. You now have no picks next year and no quarterback. What do? Why would Jimmy come back? You just dogged him out again. You dogged him out again. He's not coming back. So what do you do in that situation? You're up a creek. That's why I say Trey Lance would have to be off limits in that situation. But if it was a yes, you're 100% winning a Super Bowl, then you can have really whatever you want if we're winning a Super Bowl. The package that I would be willing to give up is, like I said, if maybe they look at it and say, okay, well, Jimmy's a quarterback that we can play with over the next few years. He can be our bridge quarterback. We'll show him love. We'll bring him back for a couple years at the end of this and try to work out a deal with him. And we're going to get multiple, like say, third round picks or a future second or something like that. Then I do that because that just makes sense. And you're still keeping your future quarterback. Now, at the end of the season, if Tom says, hey, I still want to play, you have those conversations. I'm not saying that you forego Tom next year if he looks really good and you got close and you think he's still that guy. Well, then that's a whole different situation. We cross that bridge when we come to it. And I'm willing to cross that bridge for a guy like Tom Brady. I'm not willing to cross that bridge again for a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo. I know how that story ends. So there's a lot that goes into it. Very interesting to see how that would go. Chad says, great win today. CMC was a home run trade. Let's get healthy and go on a run. Let's go Niners. 100%. It was a home run trade. Let's get back to most likely reality, which is not Tom Brady. But it was fun having the conversation, and I think it's worth having the conversation because, again, the fact that they're 3-5, the fact that Green Bay is probably going to be 3-5. Don't be shocked if you hear rumors later on after the deadline that those guys were shopped. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that they're going to get traded, but don't be surprised if the rumors come out later that they were shopped at the trade deadline. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility in either of those situations.
Not at all.
So, okay. That being said, the bye week is upon us. What do you want to see coming out of the bye week for the San Francisco 49ers?
I want to see a team with the same resolve that we had today, just a healthy team. I know that's a lot to ask for some of the players, but I also want to see them not rush players back if they're not ready to go. I know, I've been an NFL fan since as long as I can remember. And this idea of like, you kind of hear this like, well, these guys play hurt, of course, right? There's a difference between like playing hurt and playing like straight up legitimately injured. And like, well, you can play with a hamstring strain. You can, and then you can be slow and like and never catch it. Yeah, it's like so. I hope if Debo, I think that if Debo's got if this hammy thing is really, and hammies could be bad. And they can be minor, but if you at the NFL, I just hope that they're smart with that. But I hope that these guys have had enough time to rest. I hope that Eric Armstead's like on his way back. I hope that if the linebacking core is on their way back, I think that's the best case scenario. I think this team is better prepared now with CMC there to not have Debo back for a little bit, but just prioritize that defense being at full strength. Obviously, minus Emmanuel Mosley, who's definitely going to be out. And Javon Kinlaw, who I don't foresee probably coming back this year. And so that's what I want to see. And that's nothing I can control, unless the 49ers can control. But because I think they have what it takes to go on a really, go on a run. To me, it's all about the defense. And so offense was very refreshing today. But if the defense can keep doing what they're doing and keep teams under 300 total yards a game, it's going to be hard to lose.
Yeah, it definitely will be. And I think we all agree the chat's saying healthy players, but I will say specifically one healthy player, Eric Armstead. Mm-hmm. Just give me Eric Armstead back on this team. The 49ers have been susceptible to the run without Eric Armstead. And not only this year, but last year before they moved him inside, they struggled against the run. They did. They were getting gashed left and right. I think his second game in, from that point on, when they moved him inside, they gave up one game above 90 total yards rushing. This year they started out on fire. I think with his first game out, they did fine. And then after that, you started to see the chinks in the armor again. So Eric Armstead is that important to this defense. He's the one player that I want to see get back, because we really don't know what's going on with him. We don't know how serious the injuries are. We know that he had the plantar fasciitis. We know he has some foot or ankle things on the other foot, but I don't think we fully know what's going on. The hope is the bye week, he's able to come back. I think we expect that Mitchell will be back. I think we expect that Debo will be back, probably a guy like Greenlaw, those types of things. But Eric Armstead's the one guy that we truly don't know what's going on. And that is the one thing that can really hurt this defense if they can't figure out stopping the run. The Rams are atrocious running the ball. They can't run against anybody. So the fact that the 49ers stopped them from doing so, that's not a surprise.
And that's what
Eric
we have
Armstead.
That's what we have to come back to, though, too, is that I think that was a legitimate comment. And that this is where we're nuanced about, like, hey, we're super geeked for the win. And again, the 49ers have owned the Rams since time immemorial, basically, at this point in the Shanahan regime, right? So you want to see it against teams that I'm going to be more confident. I guess my confidence meter is high based on what I've seen in front of me, these pieces. And I'm going to have a lot more confidence if I see them come out against a team. But here's the thing, though. Chargers, underperforming team, injury riddled, right? Cardinals, that'll be a team with an athletic quarterback. We saw an athletic quarterback, maybe gash us on the edges a little bit. He's kind of been a bugaboo for the defense. I think that's my thing. I want to see them stack a couple wins. If they go in 6-4, going back in that three-game homestand, I'm going to be. I think the Niners are in the driver's seat for not only the division win title, but also for that second seed. And I know the second seed doesn't get and maybe, pushing for the first. But I think right now the Eagles, I don't know if the Eagles are going to be able to get enough losses at this point. We could see, but I think it's unfortunate now the second seed doesn't get a bye. But it still puts you at home field advantage for most of the playoffs. So it's big. And so this win, I think this will go. I think this win today is going to go down as maybe one of the most important, if not the most important games this season. So they took care of business.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, you at least want one home game. You don't want to do what you had to do last year and just go on the road and be road warriors. That can bring a team together, but it's nice to get at least a home game or two in the playoffs. So yeah, I agree. And I think this is a great comment here. Dusty says Warner really misses Armstead. 100%. What linebackers are great, but they really do rely on the guys in front of them to keep them clean so they can go make plays. And when you don't have that on a regular basis, it makes your job almost impossible as a linebacker. At the end of the day, if you get an offensive lineman on you, you're probably not winning those assignments. You're just not. You're too small as a linebacker. You can win it time to time, but not regularly. You're not winning that. You're not.
And that being said, I mean, I obviously I'm wearing a Fred jersey, but Fred played very well today. And when he was they didn't have Oren Burks on, Cooper Kupp or Allen Robinson. Like Fred Warner was doing his job and also creating pressure on stunts. And it's like Fred Warner is a freak. So.
Yeah, he's a very, very good player. Didn't the team say Armstead had something? I don't remember hearing that. They could have, but that's the thing. It's a mystery, and
right.
That's why I want him out of all players to be back, because that is the one guy we really truly don't know what's going on with Armstead. It would be nice to get him back. That's the one player. I want to say this real quick. Last chance, pin to the top of the chat. This is a charity stream. If you can, even a penny, a dollar, anything, if you can give it, St. Jude's Hospital is what we chose. We're going to do this once a month, try to give back the best way that we can as a community. And I think that this is a great opportunity to do that. The post-game streams are the most watched streams that I have. I figured this is probably the best time to do it. Last Second Sports is donating $100. So if anybody can, please donate to the link pinned at the top of the chat. If you can't, totally understandable. And if you did already, really, truly, I appreciate you. You're making this community better and stronger because of it. David, I think this is a great place to end it. We got Sunday Night Football either starting or getting ready to start. Let's go watch the Buffalo. It's Bills and Packers, right?
That's right.
Let's go watch the Buffalo Bills. Let's go watch Josh Allen, the best quarterback in the NFL right now, go surgical and beat the Green Bay Packers. Appreciate y'all. Have a great night. Peace.